If you're like me and you already have all of the available fighters, it's time to check out some custom fighters. And today we have the Predator. Okay, the Predator is our character today. This is a very fun one if you can't already tell. He has 2 hero cards and sidekicks that are actually just him. So before we get into his deck, let's kind of check out the components a little bit. So starting off with his miniature here, I got this guy from the Meeplesmith, as always. So if we take a quick look at him, he has just perfect details. His hands are crazy how detailed they are, as well as like his necklace there, his braids on the back and everything. The only thing I don't like about him, if you haven't already noticed, is that he kind of leans to one side. So he always kind of feels like I accidentally dropped him and like bent him. So I don't know if it's just like myself, but it like just slightly bugs me. So if the Meeplesmith ever makes a different posing form, I'll definitely pick that up. But besides that, I'm not complaining too hard. But we can quickly compare him to an actual Unmatched figure. And for this case, I was thinking another character that also will be a big menace in the woods, and that is Bigfoot here. So as always, the Meeplesmith does a great job making the bases the exact same size, same thickness and everything, and the proportions just match up like this is from the actual game. The only thing that you'll need to do is just kind of throw a black wash on this guy and he'll, be indistinguishable from the Unmatched fighters. So moving on from him, we can look at his quote-unquote sidekick tokens here. So these guys, I think, turned out very, very well. These basically are him cloaked into the forest here, so you can't see him very well. We compare him to another sidekick token here. This is the one from Bigfoot. So as I said, not too different. I can't still find something that like is the exact same acrylic thing as Unmatched. I'll let you know if I ever do. But I actually kind of like this one just a little bit better. It's just slightly thicker, feels a little bit more sturdy, and then the printing, is not just a solid base with some printing on top. It has a whole image and it's nicely textured. But yeah. And then moving on from that, we can look at his health dial here. This is one that I both like and dislike. You can ignore the crappy cutout that I did there. The image that I used, I do think looks very nice, but maybe we shouldn't have the soldiers there because we're not playing as the soldier, we're playing as the Predator. But I did think it was kind of cool that his face was showing up in the forest, like he is everywhere. But yeah, and then we can compare this health dial that I have to one from the actual game. I can't remember where I put my Bigfoot one, but I do have Luke Cage here handy. So yeah, practically the same size, same thickness. So works very well for the game. You can, when they're separate, you can't even tell this one's not from the game except for that crappy cutout, unlike the very nicely smoothed out cutout there. So yeah, still pretty proud of my health dials there. Then moving on to his hero cards here. He actually has 2, but we'll start with this one here because that's a big old chunk of text for us to start off with. So before we look at everything else, it says at the start of the game, place 4 cloak tokens, which are those ones there, in your starting zone instead of placing the Predator. So he actually doesn't start on the board. It's going to be just these 4 tokens. And then you treat the cloak tokens as 1 health sidekicks. When there is only 1 cloak token on the board, swap it for the Predator and flip this card. You cannot lose the game until this card has been flipped. So they kind of wanted you to print it on the other side of this card, but I actually ended up printing it as 2 cards. So that'll be this one here. So the Predator himself is a melee fighter with that 14 health, and his ability here is after you attack, if there are no opposing fighters adjacent to the Predator, gain 1 action. So it's a little bit confusing when you read it, but basically what that means is that you don't want to run away as the Predator is attacking you, because he will just chase you right down. So this is unlimited actions if they keep running away. A lot of people do have, or fighters have cards where after an attack you can move your fighter or move them away, but you don't want to do that because every time you move him away, he gets another action to keep attacking you. So he has a move of 3, so yeah, there's no way to run away from him. And Billy here is saying we're all gonna die. But going back to his starting hero card, he actually starts off as a ranged fighter because he's all 4 of those tokens ranged, and it says 14 health, but they are treated as 1 health sidekick tokens. And they also have a move 3. So just kind of to recap what those cards mean there is that you will start the game with these 4 tokens. They are all treated as the Predator, but they only have 1 health, Once all 4 are eliminated, you will remove the last one and replace it with the figure, and then swap your hero card. So he starts very, very powerful in the game, where you don't know which one is him. He's 4 different fighters, and they can attack you from all angles because he's ranged. But then once you kind of track him down, figure out which one's him, he gets a little bit weaker with just his melee attacks there. But now he starts that game with that 14 health. So basically almost like 18 health, because he starts with those 4 tokens and then goes to 14. And then this is kind of a home rule. He doesn't really explain it on this card, but if there's ever a time where all 4 tokens are all damaged at the same time, I would just assume that you would remove 3 of them and then replace it with the Predator there. That's kind of why I guess he said on here, you cannot lose the game until this card has been flipped. And moving on to the deck here, we can actually quickly look at the card back. I think this one is just fantastic. Those kind of circles and triangles and such remind me of Battle of Legends Volume 1, so definitely fits very well in Unmatched, and I love how the text is in red here, and then his yellow gold glowing eyes. It looks fantastic. So if we look at his attack cards here, so his first one here is an attack of 2, a boost of 3, and 3 copies, and this is Thrill of the Hunt. During combat, your opponent discards 1 random card, add its boost value to this card's value, then your opponent may move their fighter a number of spaces up to its boost value. So that kind of sounds like, you're gaining the boost value of the opponent's card and then giving your opponent an advantage, which is technically true, but if you play this card while you actually have the miniature out there and you're on your second card here, whenever the opponent or you move away and you are no longer adjacent, you gain an action. So if you played early while you were still cloaked and you're ranged, then this one is definitely better for the opponent. But if you wait to use it until you are revealed, then the opponent's not going to want to move away, because you're just going to gain another action, chase them down, attack them again. So a very interesting card depending on what state you're in. And then next up here is an attack of 5 with a boost of 3, 2 copies. This is Trophy Hunter. After combat, if the opposing fighter was defeated, search your deck for any card and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So this is not going to be that good when you're facing a solo fighter, because you only get this defense once you win. But if you're fighting like Squirrel Girl with a butt ton of sidekicks, you're just going to kill those sidekicks and grab really good cards from your deck. So definitely a better card whenever you're up against a sidekick heavy opponent. But you do only have 2 of those, so you can only do it twice, but still very good. And then next is Worthy Prey. This is a 4 attack, 2 boost, 2 copies, and it says you may play this card face up. During combat, if you play this card face up, you may boost this attack. So this is just him snarling his teeth at you, saying, I'm going to attack you, I'm gonna boost against you and do a lot of damage. But since you are being arrogant about it, they have a chance, since you played it face up, to know what you're doing and potentially just cancel your effect there. And then next here, another attack. This is an attack of 3, boost 2, 2 copies, Thermal Vision. Immediately return your opponent's defense card to their hand. They must play a card with a different name to defend. If they cannot, they must reveal their hand and play no cards instead. So we all know the Predator has that thermal eyesight, so he's going to see you, he's going to know what you're doing, and even, reveal their hand if they can't defend with a different card. So very thematic, very fun card. And then that's the last of our attacks, so we can move into our defense cards here. This is a defense of 2, boost of 2, 2 copies, and it's Accepted Challenge. During combat, you may boost this defense. After combat, if you won the combat, deal damage to the opposing fighter equal to their card's boost value. So this is kind of fun. It's like, I'm gonna tank whatever attack you are going against me, boost it up so I can win, and then deal damage to you for trying to attack me. He's definitely a very ferocious fighter, and that's the only defense cards he has. We're gonna move on to our versatiles here. So our first one is a versatile of 3, boost of 1, 3 copies, and this is Hunter's Guile. Immediately, if your fighter is in a zone the opposing fighter is not in, cancel all effects on your opponent's card. So if we look at that again, it's basically you need to be in 2 separate zones. There's a couple of boards that have like 2 different spaces that are 2 separate zones. They're not connected, but they are adjacent. And then you can, cancel your effect if you're in those 2 different zones. You're kind of hiding, between the zone lines, if that makes sense. We have 3 of those. And then after that, we have a versatile of 1, boost of 3, 3 copies, and this is Hunting Grounds. During combat, this card has +2 value for each zone the opposing fighter is in. So it's basically them getting surrounded. They're out in the open. A bunch of different zones can attack them. So it kind of discourages your opponent from, being in those very like popular spots on boards where you're, in 3 different zones and you have a big reach with a rangefighter, but you get punished for doing that with this card. This is actually also, now I'm noticing the image we have on the health dial there. So moving on, next we have a versatile of 3, a boost of 2, and 3 copies. This is adaptive methods. After combat, if you lost the combat, look at your opponent's hands. So yeah, he lost and he's learning from his opponent and adapting to what happens next. And then this is a versatile 2, boost of 2, 2 copies, impossible to see. Immediately, the value of your opponent's attack or defense is 0 and cannot be changed by card effects. Other card effects still happen. So yeah, he's going fully invisible. You can't attack what you can't see. So it's 0 and no card can change it from 0. It is just 0. And it does say your attack defense is 0, not your card's value is 0. I was just kind of reading it while I was talking. So even if you boost it, it doesn't actually make it better because it is just straight up 0. And then next here is a versatile of 3, a boost of 2, 3 copies, and it is distracted triage. After combat, if you won the combat, the predator recovers 2 health. So he does have 3 recover healths here, so 6 health he can recover. So he's not just going to be losing health and never gaining it back. He does have a little bit of health regain there. And then another versatile of 1, boost 2, 3 copies. The jungle comes alive. During combat, each of your fighters deals 1 damage to each opposing fighter adjacent to them. So technically, you can have all 4 adjacent to one fighter and deal 4 damage to them. So another really good card whenever you are cloaked with those 4 tokens, but gets worse whenever you are revealed. So it's kind of a fun deck that changes, when you go from one state to the other. And then that's the last of our versatiles there. So now we can look at our last cards here. These are the scheme cards. He only has 1 scheme, but he has 2 copies of it, and this is a boost of 2. And this is Mimicry. Move all opposing fighters in your fighters' zones up to 2 spaces each. Then, if one of your fighters is adjacent to the opposing fighter, gain 1 action. So these are ones where you are just, making noises and, showing them stuff that's not there and tricking them into moving into the perfect position for you. And it doesn't even cost you an action. You gain that action right back. So let's look at my final thoughts. So Predator is a very, very fun fighter. He's one of those that kind of like changes the play style but doesn't change the game too much. I love that he starts kind of cloaked. You don't know which one is him, but he's all over the map. It seems like he can attack you from anywhere, but all you gotta do is deal 3 damage, kill off 3, and then he is revealed. You know where he is. But also, once he's revealed, he does not stop pursuing you. He has to kill you now that he knows where you are. So he gains that bonus action if you stay adjacent to him. So he becomes really, really scary. So yeah, I played a few matches with him. I really like the way he plays. He's one of those characters, as I was kind of saying before, where he adds a whole new thing with him changing from having no miniature to having a miniature, and then also his hero ability changes, his card changes depending on what he is. He goes from range to melee. But with all those changes, he doesn't feel like the game is like needs to be relearned. I mean, like with our Among Us characters, they are very, very different with their being revealed and not revealed, that it really changes the game. The opponent has to completely change their play style. But with this one, obviously you have to figure out what your opponent's doing, but it doesn't change the game too much. So yeah, I definitely recommend him. He is a very, very fun fighter to play as and against. So let's see how to make him. So if you would like to make this deck for yourself, I got the card back as well as all the art and card effects and everything from Unmatched.cards. The creator is here, Jack North. He's actually made a few decks that I've reviewed on the channel. He does great work. And then if you want to get these printed on the quality that I have, I got them done at boardgamesmaker.com, and I will leave a link in the description for that website as well as the link to get this deck for yourself. And then if you would like to get the same miniature that I used, I got mine at the Meeplesmith. They have their own website as well as an eBay store, so whichever one is more convenient for you. And then I also have this health dial here. I got this one made also at boardgamesmaker.com. It is just the cardboard punch outs, and then I cut out a hole in the middle and this little window. And then that plastic bit in the middle is just an extra one that I had from Unmatched. So I will leave a link for the component to get this printed as well as the images so that you don't have to crop them and resize them so they work for you as well. So I will leave those both in the description. And then lastly, these sidekick slash cloak tokens I also got from boardgamesmaker.com. I will leave a link for which pieces I used, and then the image, once again, I will leave in the description. So it's all pre-cropped, pre-ready for you. So it'll just show up just like this. So anyways, I gotta go. My toast is burning.